Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from Ontario, Canada, we have Sarah Heydon. Sarah is the founder of the pig sanctuary, the Pearly Acre. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. Can you start by telling us how you decided to start the Pearly Acre?
It's kind of interesting because I sort of feel like when you get a pig as a quote unquote pet, what they don't tell you in the research is that this kind of responsibility is thrust upon you to advocate for pigs. You can roll with it if you want, or kind of just go about life without really acknowledging it. But I was walking my first pig Bullet on a leash out where I live on the trails, and treating him just like as if I had a dog. And it put me in the position where, of course, people wanted to talk about it, and that was really where I learned that there was such a disconnect between people and farmed animals, but in this case specifically pigs. It kind of sparked a knowing that this was probably something that I should delve into a little bit. So Bullet kind of led me there in a way. It was totally accidental. I didn't know anything about sanctuaries or farm sanctuaries. I didn't know it was a thing, other than really being aware of Esther the Wonder Pig. I didn't know people just had hopes and dreams of running a sanctuary. So I feel like when I brought Bullet home and I brought him into the public, and he'd gotten a lot of attention, he was a bit of a town celebrity for a little bit. It really put that responsibility in my lap, and I took it and I ran with it. And it just kind of expanded and expanded and expanded. And I'm talking to you now. So that's kind of where it led me.
Take us back to how you got Bullet. Bullet is your first pig.
Not a very exciting story, but I'll let you know how that went. So I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw this ad into the Peterborough buy and sell, and it said, my grandfather has passed and he had a pig and we're selling off the litter. And then it said, with the stars around it, for pet only, not food. And I thought, what? People have pigs as pets and not for food? And like, to be clear, at this point, I'm not vegan. I'm not vegetarian. I didn't eat pig, actually, coincidentally, total coincidence. I didn't eat pig at all. So I had no idea. This door in my life was closed. I had no idea. And I started researching. And I came across all the common things you find when you search potbellies as pigs. You see the term mini pig, you see the term teacup pig, micro pig, all these things. There's all this conflicting information, and you're kind of forced to make a decision whether a pig is the right pet for you. And I went against everybody's discretion in my life, and I accidentally adopted my first pig. I had no idea what the need for rescue was. And a family was getting rid of him that had a little run-in with the zoning bylaws where they lived. And he was just a tiny little guy. I think he was about 13 weeks old. And I got in the car with my friend one day. I'd never seen a pig in my life. Like, I'd never seen a pig. And my friend and I got in the car. We drove to this town called Oshawa. I walked into some stranger's home, and this little baby pig looked up at me. I looked him in the eyes, and they told me his birthday was the same as mine, May 24th. And that was it. I said, that pig's mine. And that's how he came home with me.
How did you decide to adopt a pig? I mean, you're going through this, I guess, technically the want ads, and you see this ad for a pig, but what made you think that you wanted to adopt a pig in the first place?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people in my life often wonder this themselves. And um, so at the time, my partner was not living with me. I lived by myself in my house, and I had already been looking into having a companion around. I was looking into some dogs, and I love dogs. I do. I love all animals, and I love dogs, but something just wasn't sparking with me. I'd met a couple dogs. I looked at a bunch online, and nothing was making me feel passionate enough to to get that dog. And I just randomly saw this ad. And what I think is really at the core of it is that if you know me well, um, you probably know that I'm not a very traditional person. I don't do things quite the same as everybody else. If there's one way to do things and that's the way the majority of people are going, and then there's another way, I'm gonna go the other way. I'm a really against the grain kind of person. So to be honest with you, I think what drew me to having a pig was just that it was different. It was different than everybody else, and it wound up being the best decision of my life. And I had no idea that it was going to be, but again, here we are, and it was all because I just took this crazy chance and went and picked up a pig.
Now, getting back to Bullet,
Hmm.
what was it about pigs specifically that you connected with? Especially like when you saw him, what was it that you connected with? You said that dogs didn't really do it for you.
Well, first of all, the overhanging sort of strange coincidence of my life was that when I was very, very, very young, I told my parents that I didn't want to eat pigs anymore. I don't know why. I remember telling everybody that it was just because I thought they were very cute, but I'd never had any interactions with them really. So I'm not really sure where I pulled that from. And I didn't think about it at all throughout my life deeply, other than just choosing not to put pepperoni on my pizza or, whatever, until this pig was in my life. And I think when I looked at this little pig in these people's living room, and the the all knowing about pigs is just their association to food. That's all really that's how people look at them. Um, and that innocence factor of this little baby pig that knows his life could have gone completely in another direction. If these people hadn't gotten him and then I hadn't picked him up, I guess it's just this overhanging question mark about if these pigs don't wind up in the right people's hands, where would their life be? And I think I just looked at him, and I don't. I can't even describe it. How do you know when you've found the one? You just know. He's my soulmate. I don't know. I can't even put it into words. I just knew. I just knew.
Now, what did it feel like when you brought him home?
I
So
was
you
petrified.
you get him,
Yeah.
you get him from the farmer or the house, the living room,
Yep. Yep.
and you bring him home.
Yeah. And I was petrified. First of all, um, I plopped him down on the floor, let him run around, and the first thing he did basically was poop right on the floor in the doorway. So that was great. We got that out of the way. I had so much anxiety. I had this animal in my home that I knew absolutely nothing about. And I guess when you get a dog, there's almost this safety net of everyone around you because somebody has had a dog.
Hmm.
So if something is wrong, you pick up the phone, you can call whoever you want. My dog's doing this, my dog's doing that. Oh, give me training tips. You can consult almost anybody about what to do with this dog. There was no one to call. Who do you call about your potbelly pig? So for weeks, maybe even months, I every time he made a grunt, I Googled it. I was like, what does this octave of grunt mean? Like, unreal, the things that I was Googling. I joined all of the Facebook groups on Facebook for mini pig parents and this and that, and I did it all. And then eventually, it just becomes daily life. You learn as you go. If I've learned anything from pigs, it's one of those things. I guess it's just like having kids. You can read all you want. You can read everything, but you're not going to know anything until you're doing it. And it just took time. And eventually, if I was standing in one room and I heard him grunt in another room, I knew exactly what he was doing. I knew exactly what he wanted. And yeah, and it takes time and patience, and yeah, and then one day you just wake up and you're a pig guru.
Now, what was Bullet's original name?
Bullet's original name was Jackson. And before I'd even picked him up, um, I think at that point I'd already known that I wanted a pig named Bullet. Um, and I just wanted to call him Bullet. Just I sport shoot and target shoot, so I just thought that Bullet would just make a cool name for a pig. So I'd already pre-named him. Even if he didn't look like a bullet, I'm sure his name would have already been Bullet, regardless. So when I got there, yeah, his name was Jackson, and he was young enough that he picked up on his new name pretty quickly. So yeah, so he went from Jackson to Bullet.
What is one thing about pigs that most people don't know?
What I hear most often, people seem to know how intelligent they are. Like right away, people will say, "Oh yeah, I heard pigs are so intelligent," and they 100% are. But their sensitivity level and their emotional intelligence is is it's outstanding. I Bullet used to let's let's prefix Bullet by saying he was an only pig for about 8 months. So he was living the dream life, like only pig, sleeping on the couch. He was a total diva. And I cooked for him. Like I didn't give him pig feed. I cooked for him. And he would come into the kitchen at dinner time. And if I wasn't prepping dinner quick enough, he'd stomp his hoof at me. And he's such a brat. And it's just all part of their personality. I think people want to believe that they don't have those attributes because it's easier for them to think about pigs that way. Yeah, so I think that's the most common thing that I hear is, oh, I didn't realize they had such different personalities. And of course they do. Of course they have personalities.
Now, I read something that pigs bark. Is that
Yes.
true?
Yes, it's absolutely true. It's funny because I have seen some people write into the Facebook groups and stuff that have a dog. They think that the pig is actually mimicking the dog, but they're not. They do it all on their own. And I've heard it in the context of fear and also excitement. Sometimes when the pigs are really excited to come out of the pen, I'll let them out, and there's a small hill a couple feet. They'll shoot out of the pen and run up the hill, and they'll bark happily. Um, it's such a great sound. I love it. I love it when they do it. They don't do it often, but they're not mimicking anything. They do it all on their own.
Yeah, it's interesting. So,
Mhm.
does it sound like a dog bark?
I'm not sure. So, uh, if you didn't know it was a pig, you you might, but
Hmm.
it's hard for me to say now. I'm not sure because I know it's a pig. But if you played me two clips, one of a dog and one of a pig, I mean, I think now at this point I'd be able to pick it out. But I'm not sure. Maybe if you've never heard it before, I'm not certain. I feel like you would be able to tell, but it definitely is a it's a bark noise. So.
You said that Bullet was with you for 8 months
Mhm.
as an only pig.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
you got another pig.
I did. So, I had read in my research that pigs are like many other types of farm animals where they do better in pairs. And I work nights and long shifts, and I always felt guilty leaving him alone. And I wanted to get him a friend. So I brought him home a beautiful little girl, and her name was Pearl. And Pearl and Bullet were the ultimate duo. I brought them everywhere together. We went to the trails together. Bullet, I mean, he was a little upset at first, but their bond was incredible. And unfortunately, when Pearl was 8 months old, I lost her to a twisted intestine, and it shattered. It shattered my whole world. It shattered everything that I thought I knew. I really thought I was just going to be that crazy girl with two pigs, living in town. And and when I lost her, I didn't know what to do. My life kind of felt immediately divided into pre Pearl and after Pearl, and I had all these thoughts, and I didn't know these thoughts and ideas about pigs. I didn't know what to do with them, and as hard as it was losing her, one thing solidified, and that was that I knew that pigs needed to play a larger role in my life, and I knew that I needed to do something, something for Pearl. I knew that everything I did for pigs was going to be in Pearl's name, hence the Pearly Acre, of course. So that was when we were looking into moving out of our small house. We wanted to move out to the country. I had to look for somewhere to board my pigs. My best friend is my real estate agent, and she said, "Girl, I'm not selling your house when there's pigs in here." She's like, "You gotta do something with them." So I went looking for a place to board them, and I found Promised Land Animal Sanctuary in Campbellford, about 40 minutes from me. And Kat, who is now my wonderful, beautiful inspiration cheerleader friend, she's the founder of Promised Land, and she introduced me to sanctuary life. I knew nothing about it. She taught me everything that I know. I volunteered there. I'm on the board. I ran tours there, and I really got kind of the knack for what it was like running a sanctuary. Of course, she's on a really large scale, much larger than I am here. But yeah, she was really my cheerleader. And so we moved to this property here. I pretty well started taking rescues the first month that we moved in. I didn't waste any time. And that all, I like to believe that all happened because I had to lose Pearl for that to happen. And I kind of take comfort in the fact that something good came from that. And I look back now and I realize that for having only had pigs for a couple months and to have lost her, that was a lot in a really short period of time. I was totally new to these animals, and then suddenly I lost my baby pig, and it was devastating. But it brought me here, and I can only thank her for that. So
When you are thinking about Pearl and what happened, what sticks out in your mind?
Well, I think what, other than it kind of the replaying the kind of personal traumas of the day and kind of feeling guilty about it, when I put that all aside, the thing that sticks out the most is her relationship to Bullet. And the reason this sticks out is because since Pearl, Bullet's accumulated 10 other siblings. And he's friendly with a couple of the pigs now. Him and Quincy are pretty close, but he doesn't have a bond with any of the other pigs like he did with Pearl. And I don't know why that is. I like to think it's because Pearl was just special and was special to him. So when I think about Pearl, I try to remember her relationship to Bullet the most because it was beautiful. I wish that more people got to witness it before she passed, but um, yeah, they had such a beautiful bond. He really took care of her, and he was a lot more high strung than she was, and she was very, very laid back. So I would, I would, I would watch her diminish his stress. It was really, really beautiful.
Can you take us back to that day? How did it happen?
So I came home from a night shift, and she was throwing up, and I'd noticed that there was quite a bit of it, and Bullet had done this in the past, where he'd been throwing up, and he used to open my fridge and help himself to all the contents. So I knew that he would sometimes consume something that wouldn't sit right with him, and so and it was the middle of the night, so nothing, the vets weren't open, so I woke up right at 8 a.m. Actually, it might have even been before that. And I called my vet right away. And I brought Pearl in to the vet just around the corner from my place. And they have fantastic large animal vets there. A lot of people have trouble getting access to good vet care. And we're so fortunate here in Peterborough. We have wonderful, wonderful farm vets. And they did some scans, and I remember the vet coming out, and I knew it wasn't good. I can see her face in my head, and she said, your pig's very, very sick, and you can take her home and see what happens, or you can rush her to the university. And I said, well, let's get her to the university. So my partner was at work, so I didn't have the option of waiting for him. So and I didn't want to be alone, so I picked up my mom along the way to Guelph, and she was still throwing up in the back. It was horrendous, and the trip was about 2 hours, so I know she was suffering the whole way. And when we finally got there, I put her down. The vets took her into the back. Gave her. I finally got a little bit of relief when I knew that she was. They'd given her some drugs, so she was out of pain. And what they had immediately asked me was, well, could she have eaten anything? And the only that could have created a blockage. And the only thing that I could think of was that we had redone our kitchen floors. And I thought, oh well, maybe she'd gotten a little piece of vinyl. So we went through this whole process thinking that there was a blockage. So she went into surgery, and the thing that's really important to make people understand is that when a pig is sick, a lot of the time, maybe not so much in this case, but in other cases, a surgery might be exploratory, because we don't know a lot about pigs because they're not kept for longevity. So, a couple years ago, I'm digressing a little bit, but a couple years ago when Esther, the Wonder Pig, had breast cancer and she had surgery, as far as I know, this was groundbreaking. And she was certainly the first here at Guelph University. She was at the same university that Pearl went to. So what's tough is that they don't always know what's wrong, and what your pig might pass from, it could help another pig, but it might not work for you at that time. And when they opened Pearl up, they did surgery, and they came out halfway through, and they said, okay, well, it wasn't a blockage. And I said, well, like, what the heck is going on here? And they said, yeah, her intestine has flipped, and there's a lot of damage to the tissue in the lower end of her intestine, and we're going to unravel it, but we can't guarantee whether the tissue that has been lost is going to kind of rejuvenate. And of course it didn't. So the next day, when the updates were not good, they called and suggested that we let her go, and it was, oh my gosh, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. Pearl was the first. I'd had family dogs growing up, but Bullet and Pearl were the first were truly mine. And that is a feeling that I can't even put into words. It was horrible.
So how did you feel at that moment when you got that phone call?
Helpless. I felt absolutely helpless. And I guess the biggest thing I kept kind of just, asking the universe was, why me? And why Pearl? Because I was so early on into understanding pigs and on this journey, and she was taken from me. And it didn't seem fair. It was so unfair. Of course, more to Pearl, but you know, me and Bullet are suffering on this end, right? So just helplessness, and I felt guilty that I couldn't help her. All the usual stages of grief. I went through all of them.
What was Bullet's reaction?
He was definitely looking for her. I noticed that he was spending time behind a chair in places that he'd never gone before. And that really made me upset. So I like to tell myself that he was kind of suffering right along with me. And I think he was. They're intelligent enough to know when something's there and then something's not. Like, he knew that she was gone. So yeah, like, he wound up comforting me, I think, a lot more than I comforted him.
So as far as your sanctuary, you got Bullet, and then you got
Mm-hmm.
Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long after Pearl passed did you get another pig?
So a couple months after Pearl, maybe not even a month, it, the way that I chose to deal with my grief was to get more pigs. So I had gotten 2 more pigs. They're not rescues. So they're the only 2 that are here at the sanctuary that I kind of brought with me from before then. So they're not rescues. And then when I really learned about the need for starting a sanctuary and the need for these displaced pigs, for somewhere for them to go, that was when the feeling of purpose and intent really um, came through. And again, that was basically after meeting Kat and being at her sanctuary. So we moved to this property in January, and by, I think, February, I'd already had my first 2 rescues. Yeah, I just went on from there. I think the majority of them came, in my first 2 years here.
Now, can you tell us the types of pigs there are and the differences in those pigs?
Yeah, so we have 9 potbellies and 2 kuni pigs, and the biggest difference, I guess, would be that potbellies tend to be one type of pig all on their own. A potbelly is a potbelly, and kunis are actually classified as a type of farm pig. So they are much bigger. And from what my vet actually tells me, because I don't know a whole lot about anatomy, but she was telling me that the kunis actually are a lot different from an anatomy standpoint. So they look different, and they're also a little bit different on the inside as well. Yeah, so they're so like I said, they're a farm type pig. So they'll I assume they'll be about 300 to 400 pounds full grown. My 2 are 2 boys, they're brothers. And then the and then the potbellies all have different mixes of males and females. I have 2 sets of sisters within the potbellies. They all have, the same type. To me, a pig is a pig. They all have different personalities, and the kunis are pretty docile, but also a little mischievous as well. They really like to graze a little bit more than the pots. I'd say they're really, and I have read that typically when they are being raised, they are grass fed. So I make sure that they get a lot of outside time grazing, and yeah, but they're all they're all great. They're all so wonderful.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you weren't vegan when you got Bullet. Now,
No.
did Bullet help you to transition by you associating your food with an animal?
Yeah. So I caught myself in a classic thought of total hypocrisy. So I thought to myself, I have a pig as a pet, and even if I wasn't eating pig before, I certainly wouldn't now. And then I thought to myself, oh, okay, well, wait a minute. If I had a cow as a pet, would I not eat cow? So why am I eating cow now when I could see it the exact same way as I see a pig if I just had it in my backyard? That makes no sense to me. So I said, Sarah, take your blinders off. This is ridiculous. So through Bullet, I had met a lot of other vegans and pig owners. So I met my best friend Amber, and she's vegan, and she was the first person pretty well that I'd ever met that was vegan, especially in adulthood. And she also has pigs, and she really helped me kind of through the beginning stages. First, I cut meat other than seafood. That was kind of the first thing to go. It was a really slow transition.
Mm-hmm.
And then after seafood went milk. Like I never drank much milk anyways, but milk specifically. And then of course, after, I think like most vegans, cheese was the hardest and the last to go. And the specific weekend that I kind of self-proclaimed myself as vegan, was the weekend that my friend Amber that I mentioned before, her and I went to New York, and we visited Rancho Relaxo and Arthur's Acres for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd eaten completely vegan that weekend. And I said, all right, let's go. We stopped at Whole Foods on the way out of the out of the state, and packed our coolers full of the cheese products that you couldn't get in Canada at the time. And after that, I didn't have any excuses after that. Um, so that was pretty much it. It was a really slow transition. And sometimes I know people that can just kind of flip the switch and that's it. And for me, it was kind of slow and intentional, and that made it easy. So I've never looked back.
Now, have you noticed any changes, positive or negative, both mentally and physically, since you've been vegan?
Yeah, so for sure, physically, um, I don't care how much anyone can deny it. Dairy doesn't make you feel well. People want to kind of turn the blind eye because they want to eat the ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt gross. I did. I truly did not feel well. And um, first, so I cut meat first, and I started feeling better. And I'd never associated how my guts would feel to meat. It seems like I think people who eat meat probably just deny it, but I think it truly can make you feel gross and bloated and yucky. So I cut meat and I felt better. Um, and then I cut dairy, and I never look back. And now I find if I eat something and I do feel sick, I can normally identify right away what it was that made me not feel well, because I know what I'm eating. I'm eating pretty clean. So, but when you're eating, salad dressing with creamers, and you're drinking coffee with dairy creamer in it, and you're eating this and that, and it all has additives and all this in it, it can be hard to find what it was that made you feel sick. So I can say that I physically feel better.
You mentioned that you struggled with cheese.
Hmm.
What was it about cheese that you feel that you had to struggle with?
I think it's just that it's kind of a go-to for everything. Like, people put cheese on everything, literally everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I think it was maybe just I tried a couple um, vegan cheeses, and the texture just wasn't quite right. And it wasn't enough to make me really like say goodbye to cheese. So I think it was just a matter of finding the one that made me forget about the real stuff. Um, and it looking back at my thought process, it seems so silly because it's not about, it shouldn't be about the texture. It should be about the animals. It should be about the cows. But it that's just not where my head was at the time. So yeah, so it took me just finding the right product, and it's not really an issue anymore. There's some really good stuff out there. So
Now, was there anything holding you back before you got Bullet from becoming vegan?
no, I don't think so. I think it was just unknown. It was just the unknown. I didn't before I'd met Amber, like I mentioned, I didn't know anybody else that was vegan. So and when I first got Bullet, I didn't know her. So I think it was just unknown. I didn't know anybody who was. How did you do it? How'd you go about it? What do vegans even eat? Like all those classic, questions that you might ask a vegan. I was asking myself. Um, and then yeah, so I made the decision. My family is great. My family's really supportive, and actually, as it turns out, uh, my brother was already vegetarian. My sister is now vegetarian. So I'm in one of those families where it's not that weird anymore. Everyone's really accommodating at family get-togethers and stuff like that. Pre-COVID, I should mention. So yeah, I think it was just diving into an unknown territory.
Now, is your partner vegan?
He he is not, but he would, if you were here, he would immediately defend himself and say that he is actually doing great. Meat consumption is way below any like it's ever been for him, and I don't push him. I know that that's not really the way to do it with anybody. He will not eat a pig product. He came to that decision on his own. He told me that he can't, go to the back and feed his pigs and then come in and eat it. And that makes perfect sense to me. So I support, his journey, however it is. I wasn't born vegan, and I can't judge him for, I can't judge him for that because I wasn't vegan too. So he's doing really, really great. For someone who met me pre-veganism, pre-pigs, he's taken on a lot, and he's really, really like seamlessly easing into this life. So I'm really proud of him.
So he's on track.
He's on track. He's
He's
he will
working
be
his
one of
way
us.
down the vegan journey.
Yes, he's on his own path, and I'm respectful of that.
What do you think is the way to help people understand the connection and therefore continue, like your partner, down that vegan path?
Well, I think you said it right then and there. It's connection itself, and the way that you connect is in my case is with a pig. So when people come for tours, being here, uh, nurturing people's connection with my pigs, that's the way to do it. I you won't see me in comment sections on vegan related threads picking fights with people. I don't think that's the way to do it. The way that I say what I need to say to people is by inviting you into my life, which is incredibly vulnerable, having people come to my home and my heart, and they're with my pigs. But that's the way to do it. And um I won't get everybody that way, and I'm sure that I don't, but I get messages from the people who do get it, and that makes my day. And if I get one of those a summer, I'm happy with that, because that's one more person. And yeah, so I think the way that I choose to advocate is by letting people connect with my pigs.
And that one person creates a ripple effect, right?
Exactly.
So you do tours and they're through Airbnb, is that correct?
Yeah, so I host it through Airbnb, just basically to help keep me straight with the schedule. Otherwise, I'd get all over the place. So it just helps me keep everybody straight. And then I don't do like Patreon or sponsoring animals or anything like that. So doing the tours is a surefire way of helping get donations for the pigs. And I like allowing people to have an experience if they're going to donate. So I do tours and I do T-shirts and yeah, people come here and I've gotten awesome feedback and people have a great time.
Now, can you take us back to the start of the Pearly Acre? Okay, so you have a couple of pigs. Like, where did you get the courage to start this whole project?
I think a lot of it was just driven by passion. I knew pretty early on, especially with Bullet, when I started going around town with Bullet and Pearl talking to people, I knew at that point that I needed to do something where I was meeting people and talking to people. And I think that sort of sparked it. And when my connection to pigs really grew and I started kind of recognizing the need that I had for them in my life and the good that I could do if I had the space for them. I wanted to be that person. I wanted to do that for pigs. I wanted to do that for them. And again, when I met Kat, having her as a cheerleader, because the other thing to remember is that she is now the only person that I know that runs a sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't pick up the phone and call someone else and one of 5 people and say, oh, tell me about running a sanctuary. Kat was all I had. And she did a really, really great job of helping me through everything and supporting me and being my cheerleader. And that was a really, really important part of my journey, was just having one other person to say, this is a little scary, but you know what, you can do it. I did it so slowly that it was kind of an easy transition. I was already doing the rescuing. I was doing the hard part. I was taking the pigs that nobody wanted, that were mean, that were this, that were that were overweight and needed to lose weight. I was already doing the hard stuff. And then it was, registering as a non-for-profit and getting that certificate. And that was just kind of the icing on top.
Now, what is one habit or hack that helps you stay on track with your plant-based diet?
I think the hack is support. And I have that in spades, because of pigs and because of my sanctuary and literally because of Bullet. I have all these people in my life that came to me for that commonality. And I'm one of those really, really lucky people that I'm not like the token vegan in my friend group. Most of my friends that are closest to me have a sanctuary, rescue pigs, and are vegan. And a lot of them are women. And to have that support from other wonderful, strong, beautiful women is like, there's nothing like it. That's exactly what everybody needs for anything. That's what you need.
Why do you think that there's so many women involved in the rescue movement?
That's a really interesting question, and I've thought of that myself. I mean, they say that we're natural nurturers. So I think a part of it is just our ability to empathize with innocence.
Mm-hmm.
I think we just have this natural ability to put ourselves in that position. And then the other thing is, I mean, this could be a whole other hour conversation, is there's a lot of societal pressures on men to be, butch, this butch masculine man. What does that mean? What does that mean? Because to me, it doesn't mean contributing to animal cruelty. So, but society tells tells them that. So I think a lot of it is just women are more in touch with that, and men probably have to fight a little more battles to be that guy. And some are willing to do it and some aren't. And I give a huge high five to the men that do it because they want, not just because they're in a relationship with a woman or whatever. So the guys that stand up for what they believe in, I think that's really beautiful.
Now, is there a book or a cookbook or documentary that you give to somebody or tell somebody about when they're transitioning to a plant-based diet?
Yeah. So I really liked The Game Changers. And the reason that I liked it was because the information in The Game Changers was served in a really digestible way. Some people might struggle with graphic images. Some people don't. But I just found that the way the information was presented in that documentary, it wasn't. I think it was just easy for anybody to watch, whether you were vegan or not, and it was kind of easy to really believe what they were saying. And I think it might have been because it was more about sports and athletes rather than animals. So I feel like a documentary like that is easier to recommend to someone because they may already be turned off knowing that the documentary might be trying to specifically address why they shouldn't eat meat because of animal agriculture. But this is a little bit more digestible because it's more about athletes, and everyone can kind of relate more to the information that was being given that way. That's how I feel. So if someone hasn't kind of ventured into this area, I'll always tell them to watch The Game Changers.
Now, finally, can you give me one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
Yeah. So before going vegan, I think I felt lost in a way. I wasn't quite sure who my people were. I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to contribute to the world, but I wanted to do something good. And after going vegan, I really found my people, and I found my little niche area where I am to contribute. And that makes me feel whole. So lost and whole.
Lost and whole. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going
Yep.
lost and found there.
Oh, darn. I didn't even think of that. I feel I meant more whole and fulfilled.
Right. Living in alignment with your values.
Exactly.
Now, it's such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time. What's the best way for people to find you on Instagram, the web, and social media in general?
Yeah, so Instagram for sure. The Pearly Acre is where you'll find me on Instagram. I have a website, thepearlyacre.com. And yeah, those are the best ways. I'm pretty active wearing the social media director hat, so I'm always around. It's easy to find me.
And don't forget about those Airbnb tours.
Yes, the Airbnb tours can be found. You can book right on Airbnb itself, or you can use my website to go to the Airbnb booking thing that's embedded right in my website. So either way.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being on Plant Your Seed.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.